Hello, Alex here again, and welcome to another episode of Warehousing. Okay, we've talked about the different types of warehousing, but in session 2, I thought we would look at the different types of storing stuff. Okay, surely it's just a matter of getting the racks in and putting the stuff on the racks. Not really. Different racks do different things, and a lot depends upon the sort of operation you're running. If you're dealing with white goods, big fridges and those sort of things, that will require different ways of storing to food or to hanging goods or that sort of thing. So the most popular sort of racking is the everyday, multi-use racks that you will find. The common pallet rack, really. These come in a few types. The most common is single deep. And usually you'll find these in wide aisle. Now, wide aisle means that you can use a standard, forklift, nothing special about it, cantilever, counterbalance, rather. So basically, the counterbalance forklift comes in, takes the stuff, and puts a pallet in and takes the pallet out. All easy stuff. Single deep racking means that if you've got a big variety of stock, you can have jelly babies up here, balloons down there, and so on and so forth. So this offers you a lot of variety, and you can get easy access to the racks. You just drive your forklift in, bang, done. Here's the problem. They're wide aisle. So wide aisle means that you need a lot of space to turn your forklift around, to go into the rack, come out and turn out again. Yeah. So what? The so what is that you're paying a lot of money for this space. Engineers rule as area increases, the costs increase exponentially. So what it means is that you're losing a lot of space. And the primary thing about warehousing is to make sure that you're utilising all the space you can, because you're paying for it one way or another. Business rates, startup costs, building the thing. It's an expensive business. Okay. So on plus side, standard racking, great. Lots of variety. If you've got a big variety of stock and what have you, it's good. And this is why it's one of the most common forms of racking. You can make better use of your space by, rather than having a single deep, in other words, a single pallet load, you have a double deep. So a double deep, as the name implies, has two. Therefore, if you've got two pallets of the same stock, or even different stock in the same location, what it means is that you don't need quite so many aisles. So they're still wide aisles, but you don't need quite so many of them. Another way around this with single deep racking and that sort of thing is, rather than having a wide aisle, you have a very narrow aisle. So it's the width of the truck. And rather than the forks being that way, the forks are off to one side. So you drive the truck down these very narrow aisles, in, and off you go. So that way you still have the same amount of aisles, but they're narrower, which means you get extra stacking. Okay, what's another form? Now I mentioned white goods. White goods are things like fridges, freezers, washing machines, and so on and so forth. And there's no point having a racking system for those. So what do? Block stacking. Block stacking put one on top of the other, and you'll usually find that there's a maximum weight limit to how many you can stack on top of each other. But it's very easy. You don't have to buy racking, you just have the space, you perhaps use some floor tape to say these are your bays and put your stock in there. Very common as well with bottles and cans and those sort of things, monostock. The problem is because of those weight things, if you've got a lot of height on your warehouse, that's a lot of room you're not using up there. So you might have to look at something like a mezzanine floor, an extra layer for other goods that you want. The other problem with block stacking is something called honeycombing. And waste of space, basically. You've taped out an area that nothing else can go into. So you would lose a lot of space if you've only got one pallet there in a 5 pallet run. But this is quite common. But honeycombing is where you've got stuff that's sort of like dead and very hard to get to. Yeah. So you have to move other stuff out of the way to get to it. And it's a loss of space basically, or stuff that'll stay there for a while until you get to it. So this is the downside of it. So floor stacking, works well with long-term stuff, but it also works well with quick turnover stuff because you never then build up this honeycombing thing because it's in and out. Think Coca-Cola. Stuff comes in as empty tinnies, gets processed into full tins of Coca-Cola or Schweppes or whatever, and it's out the door very quickly. So racking doesn't become an issue because it's not long-term storage. Okay, so you've looked at very narrow, you've looked at standard racking, wide aisle. What else have you got? Well, the other thing that you can do is drive in, drive through. Different type of warehouse. Now this works with monostock. If you've got a big variety of stock, this will be a honeycombing problem. Also, if you've got lots of layers like this, you have to perhaps unload the bottom layer so you can get in and get to what you want up here. And honeycombing becomes a problem, especially if your racking is against a wall, so you drive in and drive out. One way of overcoming this is to load and unload from both ends. It's a good solution. It's a good solution if you've got a lot of the same stock and first in, first out isn't your high priority. Yeah? But it can be a bit of, it can be cumbersome and there can be honeycombing involved, especially if what you want is up here and in the middle. So honeycombing is a problem where you're not making the best use of your space. But there's other ways as well that you can make the best use of your space. So rather than a double deep, what happens if in one location we could have 4 or 5 items? Yeah, but how are you going to get the forklift in there, Alex? Easy. You purchase a pushback racking system. Now this stuff works well against walls. And what you can have is it's like a trolley or 5 interconnected carts up a location, and you push back. You put one pallet on the first trolley, then the next pallet comes in and pushes back that, then the next one and pushes back. It runs like a railway car type thing. It's a bit expensive, but it's a very good way of doing it. Now, first in, first out isn't going to happen here. It's first in, it's LIFO, last in, first out. Okay. So long shelf life goods, this works for. It's quite good as well because you've got the benefits in effect of having that standard racking. I can do different things in different locations. So it's good if you've got a variety of stock. Overcomes a lot of the honeycombing associated push, drive in, drive through. And as soon as you take a pallet out it comes, everything else on the little train comes back forward again. and you can go up to 5 on these. Very popular system it's becoming. Expensive, but popular. The other things that you can do is similar to that. You've got, again, a gravity thing. So it's slightly off tilt like this. Just like pushback, but instead of loading from one end, you load from that end, and it comes down and takes off from that end. So for first in, first out, this is the kiddie. It takes a bit of room, but you can have 4 or 5 in there, and bang, straight through. Good for high turnover goods. How else can you store goods? Well, mezzanine floor. If you've got lots of small items, having lots of layered floors and then little boxes and stuff at the locations and that sort of thing. So Amazon uses quite a bit. You push along with your trolley and you take 2 from there, go to the next one, take a couple from there and 1 from there, and so on and so forth. So if you've got lots of small items, mezzanine floors, because you can get lots and lots and lots of items on the different floor levels. The other style as well that's worth looking at is cantilever. This is where you've basically got long loads and stuff, and that's quite handy if you've got planks of wood and stuff. So basically cantilever is something that you have, rather than just a standard pallet, you've got something long that needs to go there. So the goods dictate the style of location. The other thing that's worth mentioning is clothes. Normally clothes come on racks and those sort of things, and then you just have a rack trolley that you push along and you put your pick clothes on there and off you go. One of the better systems for this I saw actually had a little internal track railway all across the mezzanine floors and various things, and you could switch the junctions and that sort of thing. So pretty much you put the stuff on, move it on, get your next bit, so on and so forth, and then when you've done, the whole lot goes down straight and goes straight into the lorry. So there's the rack from the warehouse, there's the rack from the lorry itself in the back, and it just goes straight in. Good system. So you have a lot of variety, but the important overriding issue throughout all of this is best use of your space. Empty space is still costing you money. So you look at the type of goods you have, where it can be stored, and you look at the best way of, making use of the height and doing away with the narrow aisles, with the wide aisles as much as possible. Perhaps have a bit of block stacking there, push back there, standard racking there. It's all about, as I said, making the best use of your space and therefore utilising your investment. Because that's what a warehouse is. Somebody has invested a lot of money in it to make sure this thing does exactly what you want it to. Anyway, a few things to think about. Perhaps you can have a go at designing your ideal warehouse for perhaps one of the big supermarkets. Anyway, I'll let you think about that for the meantime. Until next time, I'm Alex.